Time now for The World This Week, 7 days for Paris-based correspondents, 1 hour with us. Stefan de Vries, Paris correspondent for Dutch radio RTL4. Welcome back, sir.
You're welcome.
Welcome back to Christian Wernicke, Paris correspondent for Süddeutsche Zeitung. Thank you for being with us. Elena Servatas of sister station Radio France International's Russian language service. And Franco-Syrian photojournalist Amr Abed Rabo. The World This Week, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag TWTW. Let's begin with relations between Washington and Berlin. They've hit a post-war low. On Thursday, the top U.S. intelligence officer in the German capital expelled for not one, but two suspected cases of spying. The latest scandals come as Germany is still smarting from last year's revelations by U.S. intelligence whistleblower Edward Snowden, revelations that include eavesdropping on the Chancellor's cell phone.
Wir müssen wissen, was wir wollen.
We do need intelligence to fight terrorism, but that doesn't mean the Americans are allowed to hire third-rate people here. It's really stupid. It's so stupid we can only weep at the foolishness of it.
So stupid, perhaps, but I mean, one scandal, two scandals, three scandals. I get the feeling that the message from Berlin is just not getting through to Washington.
We get some signs that it finally gets through, but I'm not so much.
Merkel recently, she goes there. She was at the White House. They talked about it.
Well, they also suspicion they were on a telephone call, and Merkel knew about it already. Didn't tell Obama and Obama was totally out of the loop. So, but that's not the point. I think the governments can solve this problem. But the real problem is that this happens at a time where many Germans, also because of the conflict in Ukraine and the conflict with Russia, are in a mood that they already a little bit finding equal distance and trying to rebalance the whole position of Germany. There is a rise of anti-Americanism since last year, the eavesdropping on the telephone of the Chancellor. This adds up to it, and people who are defending transatlantic relations and the historical friendship between the two countries are really playing defense now. It's very difficult to defend the behavior of Washington that seems to be really ignorant of standards that rule relations between friends.
How does Ukraine play into all of this?
You would imagine that there would be a stronger support for Ukraine against the interference of Russia in the Ukraine. And in the last few months, it is amazing, also a newspaper like ours, Süddeutsche Zeitung, that we get a lot of letters from the readers who support Putin, who blame the West for causing the crisis, who blame Europe for causing the crisis, and it is something. This just plays into it. This fuels the distrust between Western nations, and that's very regrettable.
So there might be criminal proceedings against these two Germans.
Yeah,
but will it blow over in the end?
It will blow. I think the governments will handle that in a way, but the governments are now playing also to public opinion. I mean, certainly the German government. The German government is under pressure to do something. It is very unusual that the CIA, the head of the office of the CIA in Germany, sent out, although we know that he was not involved in hiring any of these guys because he just recently came into the country. But it is fueling sentiments in a way that binds politicians.
Stefan de Vries, since the Edward Snowden revelations from last year, are you jaded or are you still surprised when you see this?
No, not surprised. This, of course, the most important thing to do as a spy is not to get caught. So the fact that they are caught proves that they're pretty stupid, like the German minister Schäuble said. It's quite surprising that Washington doesn't really understand that it should treat its allies, and probably Germany is its most important ally, a little bit differently than they treat their enemies. This being said, that during the Cold War, Berlin was the city with the most spies in the world, and probably lots of them never left. And spying is nothing new. So the fact that that this is going on is not surprising. The fact that maybe what has changed is that the public is now more aware of the doings of secret services. There's, of course, the whole Snowden case. Everybody's really, especially in Germany, Germans are very cautious when it comes to privacy, much more than here in France or in the Netherlands or in the UK. For instance, Facebook is really, or Twitter are very small sites in Germany. So the German public is very suspicious of anything that has to do with spying or privacy or online safety. And this is just bad publicity for Obama. And it's even worse because he never apologized, even not in person, to Angela Merkel for having eavesdropped on her phone. So I don't know what the CIA or the NSA are thinking, but it doesn't give a good image of our American friends.
Amr Abed-Rabo, there was a German parliamentary delegation that went to Washington the past couple of days, and they were shocked because most of the lawmakers on Capitol Hill either didn't know about it or didn't care. So what does Barack Obama do? Does he issue a full-fledged apology when nobody in the United States cares?
I think nobody in the United States cares, but also in Europe there is a kind of tenderness or affection to the American spy, you know, because of the movies. Exactly. I mean, when you look at 24 hours or things, I mean, American spies we know them. They're kind of part of us. So we're not that shocked. I mean, we are shocked, but not that much. If it was Russian spies or if it was another nation, maybe China or something like that, then people would be, I mean, the public opinion would be probably much more shocked and would be demanding more action against these people. But with the Americans, there is a kind of, you know, they're part of us. That's not that terrible.
It was just a bit surprised for me when I read the German newspaper. You guys describing it's like a disaster, and soon we're gonna stop every relationship with the United States. But in fact, Angela Merkel, she didn't do anything really huge. And this scandal, when we read here in France or even in Russia about this scandal, it's not that horrible. Nothing bad have changed. And we know exactly that Germany is maybe a bigger ally of United States than Great Britain is. So her behavior is just very calm and normal. And I agree. Imagine just if it was Russian who were listening to her, Angela Merkel's phone, how would it be?
Well, they probably are, but the Russians are probably smarter than the Americans.
I think the Germans are very disappointed with the American reactions during the last 12 months. The Americans didn't properly react to the scandal of eavesdropping the chancellor's phone, of installing devices on the roof of the American embassy in Berlin, and then the Germans tried to negotiate a kind of no spy agreement, or they tried to come into the closest club, the so-called Five Eyes, the club of 5 nations that exchange among them the UK, of course, and the Americans just said no, we are not interested. And now so it is a combination of doubts about the American in general, and also feeling of having to deal with a lot of American arrogance. And I think it's really a problem that the Americans are not concerned enough anymore about the European allies and the mood in the countries of the European allies. Foreign policy in Washington has turned more to Asia. They're much more concerned about the east of the West.
Or more isolationist, you might say.
They are more isolationist, but then at the same time, since 9/11, of course, the anti-terror argument carries any time, certainly in Congress. But the orientation that you have to be careful in certain parts of the world this kind of consideration is now more important in the Pacific and towards China and the whole region in East Asia. And Europe is, this kind of arrogance is part of an ignorance towards Western Europe.
And all of this, as you were saying earlier, stoking a rising anti-US sentiment in Germany at a time when Washington and the European Union are negotiating a free trade agreement.
We need to put more pressure on the Americans concerning an ending of their spying activities here in Germany. And from our point of view, the intermission of the North American Free Trade Agreement with the US is a necessary step to take.
All right, hit the pause button on those free trade agreements with the U.S. Stefan de Vries.
Yeah, that's a topic that actually was not, people didn't talk about it during the European elections, which was really strange because actually this is one of the major challenges of the new European Parliament, the TTIP, the free trade agreement. A lot of European countries don't want to make the mandate public. Some countries do. So actually, like France, for instance.
What does that mean, making the mandate public?
Well, it means that the current European Commission is negotiating with the United States based on a mandate given by the national governments, but nobody knows what's in this mandate. Actually, the mandate is secret. So this means that the European Commission is negotiating for 510 million citizens who have basically no clue of what's being negotiated. So many political parties are opposed, but there's now a fight going on in the European Parliament and in some member states to make this mandate public so that at least we know what we're negotiating about, because a lot of silly things are being said, but if this TTIP, so the trade agreement, will be voted or
well, they've already put what, a cultural exception. So that's off the table.
Well, that's not sure, probably, but
there's also talk in places like Germany. There's a lot of complaints about the idea that we're going to have hormone beef, chlorine-washed chicken coming into Europe.
Yeah, a lot of conspiracy theories are already being publicized, but it's also one of the main issues is that there will be instead of, for instance, going to court between companies when there's a disagreement between European and American companies. Now they can take countries to court. So, for instance, if Coca-Cola is not happy with what France is doing, then they can take the country to not even to an official court, but some kind of arbitrary institution. So this basically means that we're going to outsource our sovereignty and our judicial power in Europe, and that's something that a lot of political parties are not very happy with. But once again, we don't know really if that's the case because we do not know what we are negotiating.
We're not privy to the negotiations.
No.
Would you say, Amar, that you have the sense that in Europe right now there's rising anti-Americanism? There's a bit of Yankee bashing?
I don't feel it on daily, in the street with people. But I still think that we missed a chance last year with Snowden, without giving him asylum. And it would have been a clear message to our American friends to say, well, we can also be nasty, we can be... we missed that chance. We gave it on a silver plate to Putin. And
Christian Wernicke, could Snowden get asylum in Germany?
I don't think so, but it's certainly a point that came up again this week because of the new scandal. Absolutely. I mean, the demand for asylum for Snowden was an immediate reflex to the new scandals.
Why do you not think so?
Because I think that it would be paying back in a way that's not appropriate. Because if you know that the United States considers Snowden as a traitor, and you're a NATO ally of the United States, you have to take into consideration that giving asylum to and if you want to say so, enemy of the state of your major ally is a provocation that doesn't pay off.
Because there is only one person who is able to do that. And so he did. It's Vladimir Putin. Of course,
and his stay has been extended this week.
Sure.
Yeah, but he's not an ally of the United States.
But it's just not to be ally. It's just to make them angry. It's not a question of being friends.
And also there are the principles. I mean, in the name of principles like against censorship, against...
and after all these statements...
for freedom of speech, we should give him asylum. Sorry.
All the statements he did, it was like all this process, it's legitimate, and so there is services who is busy with Snowden, he never met him, so he's like out of the game, but as soon as he's there, and you remember during last interview, during 4 hours, he would say, you were working for Secret Services and me, I was working there, so we understand each other. This is the guy's business. This is two men who are opposed to United States and together.
And do you think that Snowden is indefinitely stuck in limbo in Russia?
I hope so. I hope not. I mean, for him, I hope that he will find a better place to stay somewhere. He asked actually France as well, and Manuel Valls directly. He said, "No,
the Prime Minister. said no. All right. We'll leave it there on that issue. The one, of course, that's been grabbing the top of the headlines is Israel and Gaza. It's day 4 of assaults. More than 100 Palestinians killed since the ratcheting up of rockets raining over Israel, a tit-for-tat airstrikes by the Israelis over Gaza, the destruction of homes. 1 week ago, Hamas officials were predicting a ceasefire could be a matter of hours. That never happened. Instead, from his exile in Qatar, Hamas's leader talking about the spiral as a matter of pride.
Did Netanyahu really think that we were lifeless people, that there would be no reaction from us? So, 3 settlers died as an expression of Palestinian anger. This was the spark, an opportunity to tell the world, before telling Netanyahu, that our people will not surrender. Even we do not know who kidnapped and killed the 3 settlers.
Of course, those 3 settlers, as he put it, those 3 Israeli teenagers, there was a Palestinian killed in a revenge attack, also a 16-year-old. Amar Abed Rabba, what is the objective, you think, of Khaled Mashal, of Hamas at this point?
Well, Khaled Mashal is in his role for the moment. He's not that much out of his role. I wonder what are the objectives of Netanyahu. I mean, he knows exactly the state. I mean, how is Gaza? It's like an open-air prison. He knows exactly how tough it is to go in and to go out and to bring things in and to bring things out, etc. And he still deliberately, I mean, he does the same thing that was done 5 years ago. Remember in 2008, 2009, I mean, it's almost the same images. We have the same images, the same meeting at the United Nations Security Council, same people shouting in the same images coming from there. And 5 years later, we are at the same point. I mean, that didn't move one meter. So are we going to have in 5 years the same story, or at one point someone will decide to do something about this? It's interesting. I wonder also when people have been calling me in the last few days, telling me, because I said something like, "Oh, the images from Aleppo and the images from Gaza are so lookalike. You know, they're the same images of shelling on civilians." And somebody told me, "But how can you say that? I mean, here there's a dictatorship, and here democracy defending itself." And it's very annoying because I feel as if democracy can kill a lot of people, like we saw with the drones, the United States drones in Pakistan or in Afghanistan, and that it's normal because it's a democracy, so it can kill a lot of people. That's fine. But we all know it's not fine, and we may have to pay later a price for all this.
Has time stood still? I'm going to put it to the rest of the panel. When we come back, you're watching The World This Week.